All right, so for today's project, it is doing some euros. We got a hog right here, and we got 2 more hogs right there, and then we got one deer we're doing. But these suckers are frozen solid, and today's my day off, so it's now or never. So I'm gonna do something I normally don't recommend. What I recommend is you let them thaw out. Once they're fully thawed out, you skin the head. Well, ideally when you're out on the field, skin the head. Get it all taken care of. But in this case scenario, we were on a time crunch, and I didn't have a chance to do that, so I just threw the heads in the freezer, called it good. So really, you should let this sit out, let it fully thaw out, and then cut off as much meat as you can, and leave it as close as you can to bare bone, and then you stick it in here. But for, for right now, I'm gonna just warm up some water, stick that sucker in there, and hopefully it'll kind of thaw out that way. And then I'm gonna go through and take off some meat, and we'll pick up there. So I think we got it thawed out a little bit, and so the way I'll go about this is just pick a spot, any spot, and I like to just kind of start here, and just with the sharpness of the blade facing up, just to minimize any scratching of the skull, and then work your way up like that. I don't have my nice knives. I like my one that's got the little hook on it that you can kind of go like that and pull it out. That's the one I would recommend, but I don't got that one with me right now, so we're just gonna make do with what we got. And just careful not to scuff up your skull too much, because you will scratch it up. So keeping that in mind, I'm probably gonna get censored, so I might not be able to show the whole process, but I'll try to show whatever I can, and make sure to get it posted. But yeah, I'll basically just, take it slow and do that. And the key to this is just take your time, be patient. It will eventually give. And around the nose, be careful so you don't break any little bones. Although these things are pretty tough, but still just take that extra precaution if you can. And I'm not doing a very good job of showing what I'm doing in my, let's see, I'll basically pull the skin and just run the blade along the side. That's how I like to do that. Making sure not to scratch up the bone, because you don't want to have big old scratches all over your skull. And yeah, that's all there is to it. Just take it slow. And I also have some pliers that I keep with me. Some of these here, some pretty nice little pliers. And sometimes I like to even grab these and kind of twist them back a little and do that. Every now and then, like especially around the eyes and the ears, where you have to like kind of get a pretty good grip on things. Sometimes this can get a little slippery. Can't really get a good grip on it, so that's where these come in handy. And so basically, I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna get this all skinned out, and we'll pick up there. The only reason why I'm not showing the whole process is because I usually end up getting censored for this kind of stuff. So I try to not post too much But yeah, that's it, guys. You get the idea, and I hope that helps. Okay, so there we have it. I got quite a bit of meat off of this. If you can, take your time and take off more meat, the more you take off, the quicker this process is going to go. But that's, a good point for me, good enough. And now we'll just stick her in the pot. And I got it at a simmer, and we'll just let it sit there for an hour, and then come back and check on it. All right, so there we have it. That's our head. We had it at a simmer for quite a while. I think I had it sitting there for, I don't know, maybe like 5 hours or something like that. So quite a while. Now, you could do it boiling and things would go by quicker, but I was doing other things, so I couldn't really keep a close eye on it. So I had it at a simmer. And basically, after it boils, all this is going to peel off really easy, as you can see there. It's just, it's going to all peel off fairly easy. And then I'll show you what kind of cool little gadgets I use to clean out, like the brain and inside the eyes and all that. But just because I'm running out of time, I won't be able to do the whole, the entire skull. That takes a little longer. What I'm going to end up doing is I'm just going to solve, I guess per se, the snout. This was like that. I'm taking my little saw, and I'm just come straight down. I'm only going to mount just the snout, or whatever you want to call it, just because if you look in here, there's a lot of stuff you got to clean out in there, and there's just so much to clean out, and it's pretty time consuming, and I don't have enough time. But here's an example of what I mean by this stuff peels back pretty easy. You can see there. And then so basically, once I get it down to the bone, if you'll come over here, I'll show you what we do next. So I'll go through and I'll do like a screwdriver, some pliers, and I'll pull everything off. And then once I get it pulled off, I'll put stuff in a little simmer. This is a Dawn dish soap with a little bit of hydrogen peroxide, the little brown bottles that you get at at your local store for like $1 or something. And it's not really boiling or nothing, it's just a slight simmer. And you can see there why it's important to do that, because it'll give you that nice kind of like white look, and it'll degrease. And most importantly, it's going to degrease. I guess the white look doesn't matter if that's not what you're after. I guess you don't have to do the super white look, but basically, as you can look there, you can look right there, like around the teeth and stuff. There's a little bit of yellowish. This is going to help get rid of all that, and all that yellowish around here and stuff like that. That yellowish stuff is all just built up grease and stuff like that. So letting it soak in Dawn dish soap and a little bit of hydrogen peroxide with a slight simmer for like about an hour is going to really help remove all that gunk. Now, you could even bring it to a boil, but if you bring it to a boil, you probably only let it sit for 20-30 minutes. I can't really be keeping an eye on it right now, so I'm doing everything at a simmer just because I can't keep a close eye on it. But if wanted to, you can boil it. It makes the process so much faster. The only thing I look out for if you start boiling, you can see there it's kind of starting to open up a tiny little bit. Which is not bad, it's not bad, but if you boil real hot, all of this will crack open. Which, if you don't mind that, it doesn't matter. But if that's something that kind of would bother you, then you really need to keep a close eye on it and make sure to not overheat it up and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll try to keep you posted on the next process. Yes, sir. All right, so a list of tools that you're gonna need is a medium-sized screwdriver, a pretty big screwdriver, a really tiny screwdriver that comes with a real fine point, and then some pliers, some needle nose, and some flat nose, or whatever these are called. If you had longer, thinner ones, it'd be even better, but it's just what I got. And then I took some clothes hangers and just cut them up and gave them different little ends. Like, for example, that's a little hook. That one's got like a smaller hook. That one's got a tiny hook and a really big hook. And here we got another weird hook. And then we got something kind of like that. And then we got another version. And then we have something like that. Really tiny hook. And then we have a kind of like a little slight angle. And I had one that was like just straight somewhere, but I don't know where I left that. But anyways, so those are things that are going to really help you out, especially if you do like the full skull, when you're trying to scratch out the brain and all that, and the nasal, everything in the nose, all that stuff, and inside the eyes and all that. That's really going to be helpful, all these little things. But since we decided to make this process a whole lot shorter, it probably won't be as essential, but we're here to show you. So basically, let's say this was an entire skull, right? Let's just say this was the full thing. Most of this, I would either take my little screwdriver and just kind of poke it and loosen things up. And so I'm trying to record and do this. I'm holding the phone in one hand and doing this on the other, but basically this stuff comes up pretty easy. Honestly, you could even probably just use your hands. Like, don't cut your nails for a little bit. Get you some long, nasty nails, and you can just scratch at this. Look at that. And I'm doing that with one hand, so imagine what you could do with two. Yeah, I mean, you get the idea. Basically, this stuff is gonna come off fairly easy, you know, and just kind of pick at it. Eventually, something's got to give. This process is slow and time consuming. That's why I decided we're not doing the full head mount. We're just doing the like little snout or whatever. Just because I think on the other head, I spent probably like 3 hours on it. To be fair, I was doing other stuff around the house and stuff like that. You know, if I would have boiled it and stuff like that, things could have gone way quicker. But like I mentioned in the previous video, if you're gonna be boiling it, you're gonna have to keep a close eye on things because you can mess things up really quick. So I just had everything to a simmer, so it doesn't come off as easily. If you get it to the boiling, I mean, this stuff will just almost like slide off, like right off the bone and stuff. So yeah, but let me just get this cleaned up, and I'm gonna show you what these little ones are good for. For example, inside of here, right? You can't really tell, but all of that is just gunk meat or whatever. And you know, just you know, it's easier with two hands, but basically you just find whichever little tip works the best. There's different options, you know. Find you a tip that works good for you, and just get as much of that gunk out as you can, and just slowly work it, you know, and get it cleaned up the best that you can. And then if you have a power washer, you can use a power washer after that, or like a little spray nozzle on your sink. There's just different options. And one thing to keep note of is, for example, these, you'll see they'll come out on the front over here when we get this pulled off. You're gonna be able to see them on the front. Those are optional. You can keep them if you want them. For a deer, I go ahead and keep them just because I think they kind of look cool. But on a hog, you really can't really see them, so I just break them. You know, you can see there. I usually use a screwdriver for that part, but well, you can't really tell. But I'll go through there and just break them suckers. On a hog. On a deer, I go ahead and leave them because I think they look kind of cool. But that stuff doesn't really matter. You can leave them or take them, whatever you prefer. And if you are doing this in your sink like I am, make sure you find a way to clog it up or something. You don't, or you know, put something down in there so you can pick up all this gunk afterwards and don't clog up your drains. All right, so for example, this one I went through and cleaned it up. You can already tell the difference. I mean, it's not perfect. There's a few little spots here and there, but so basically after this point, what you could do is, if you kind of want this like natural bone color, what you could do is just do your next boil in just water with maybe just a little hair of soap, Dawn dish soap, and then call it good. You'd pretty much be set after that, because that's actually really cool. I kind of personally like it, but it's all personal preference. You don't have to, you know, if you like that real nice white color, you can do the soap and the hydrogen peroxide, and then there's this other like salon product that I put on things, and I'll show that later on in the videos. But yeah, basically that's what it looks like there. Once it's pretty cleaned up, you know, I still got to stick the pliers in there and get a little bit more out of there, but just kind of a little example. And now that I have my wife helping me and stuff, I can show you how quick it really does go when you have two hands. So for example, this is what we started with, and look at that. I mean, just with two hands, you can make quick progress. You see that? And this would go by even faster if we would have came to a full boil. Like if we would have came to a full boil, this stuff would have, like, you probably didn't even have to use your nails or nothing. You could probably just rub it off with your fingers. So yeah, but since we didn't go to a full boil, this stuff is stuck on there a little better, but it's still not bad. You know, it's not bad at all, especially if you're just doing one head. Really not bad at all. I just kind of got tired because we were doing it was 5 heads. We were doing 5 heads, and the first 3 I did like the full head, and then
once I got to these, I'm like, yeah, forget that. We're just doing the mouth or whatever. But yeah, this is like a real-time video right here. This is not sped up or nothing, so that you can give yourself kind of an idea of how long this project takes. Keep in mind, this is just the mouth. The real hard part is getting the brain out, getting inside the nasal cavities and the brain. That stuff is tough. That stuff does take time, and you really want to take your time with that, because you don't want to leave anything that isn't bone. Yeah, if it's not bone, you don't want to leave it behind, because it's going to look nice for a little bit, and it's not going to rot real quick, but eventually it will begin to rot, and you don't want that. It's going to stink up. So yeah, I try to get as much as I can with my hands. Double check everything. Just a little spot there. And for example, like if this was the brain and stuff, it'd be the same concept. You know, you pick a little point that you kind of like, and just dig it in there, and you know, kind of spin it around, and you'll see all that mush and gunk coming out. But and different tips will do different things. You know, for example, this, we got the little hook, right? The little baby hook. You just jab it in there, and it'll bring a little bit of stuff out. Wow, got it stuck in there. You know, the little hook isn't very helpful right now in this little scenario. Right now, our biggest helper would probably be something kind of like this, just to kind of sear things out, since this stuff comes out fairly easy. But when you get to the brain and stuff, the little hooks are super helpful once you get back there. So yeah, and then just give it a little rinse, and it'll clean up pretty nicely, and then you can go back and do little touch-ups here and there. But yeah, guys, basically I'm gonna go through and get these all cleaned up with the same concept. And then since we're not sticking to the bone color, we are going for that white color this time. Next up is the Dawn dish soap bath per se. We'll pick up there.
All right, guys, so we let everything simmer in Dawn dish soap for like an hour. You can't really tell, but the other stuff is down there somewhere. And now we added some hydrogen peroxide, and the one I'm using is this stuff. Literally just the cheapest thing they got out there, hydrogen peroxide. So I throw in a handful of these, a little bit of water, and then just some Dawn dish soap, and that's about it. I don't have a specific measurement. I just kind of throw in a few of these. I think I threw like two bottles, or maybe 2.5 of the hydrogen peroxide, and then just a little bit of Dawn dish soap, like a little like the hand soap bottles, about maybe half of that of Dawn dish soap. So if that tells you anything. And then water basically up until the skulls get covered. And yeah, and now we're gonna bring it up to a boil, and we'll probably let them boil for 15-20 minutes, and then pull them out, and they should be pretty close to white, pretty close to white. All right, guys, so this was the end result. That's what everything ended up looking like right there. As you can see there, everything is pretty white, pretty close to white. But if for any reason it's still not white enough for you, or you just want to go above and beyond, the next step would be this stuff right here. The Salon Care Professional 40 Volume Cream Stabilizer Formula. That's what I use there. I'll buy this sucker, and then I'll just pour out a little bit on this. You might want to wear gloves. This stuff is pretty strong, but you know, if you're a real man, you don't wear gloves. And then yeah, you just brush it on there, everywhere and anywhere, and this will whiten it up even more. But as you can see, with the soapy water and hydrogen peroxide, it does a really good job. I mean, I think that's pretty good, honestly. If these were mine, I'd just call them good, let them be. But I'm doing this for my father-in-law, so we're going above and beyond. We're doing the most. We'll make sure this sucker is nice and white, super. You know, let it be known we tried, made an effort. But yeah, that's all there is to it. And just smear this everywhere. And as you can see back here, I did a little bit of the deer. That one's already all smeared up. And yeah, this is what it ends up looking like there. You can see that's pretty dang white. If y'all remember these, whenever we were doing these, we had these go in maybe like 20 minutes after these other ones. So these didn't get to sit in the soapy water and hydrogen peroxide as long as these, and even these are pretty dang white, I would say. I mean, that's pretty good there. Those little spots it's still drying. These aren't. I pulled these out of the water not so long ago, so it's still doing a little bit of drying. And now they might have a little bit of the grease patches here and there. If you have a little grease spot, it's gonna look like a yellowish color. If that happens, just throw it in some soapy water and hydrogen peroxide for a little bit longer at a light simmer. I probably wouldn't boil it unless it's really bad. Then go ahead and boil it. But if not, put it in there a little longer for a little bit, and then check on it, and then you'll know once it winds up. You're pretty much ready to go. And yeah, that's all there is to it. I'm gonna get all these I guess put this cream stuff all over it and get them all done, and we'll pick up after that. All right, guys. So we put that paste on there, the formula, and it's sat there on there for roughly 5 hours. And now all I'm gonna do is just rinse it right off, and it should just come right off. Yeah, that's all there is to it. I mean, just it's all so nice, and after you do a good rinse on everything. That's all there is to it, guys. Set it off to the side and let it dry, and once it's dry, it's done. That's all there is to it. All right, guys. So we skipped on the formula on these simply because these are mine, and I'm not really too worried about them. The other ones were for my father-in-law, and I wanted those to look real nice, so I went ahead and put the formula on those. But on these, we're calling it good. As you can see, they're not terrible. They're pretty good. And what I'm gonna do here is basically I'm gonna take my super glue and just put a few little dabs of super glue here and there, and then set that sucker down, and we're just gonna glue it, and they're gonna look something kind of like that, and that's how our frame's gonna be. All right, guys, so now we're gonna see how I go about putting these onto the little plank of wood or whatever. But one thing I forgot to show, since we had like for example, the hog heads, we had sawed them off right around there, so you didn't get to see much of this part. But remember the little clothes hanger tips that I had? It's basically the same concept as those when we were taking the nasal stuff out of there. But when you get to the brain, let's just imagine this was a little hook and everything. Pretty much do the same thing. You dig this in there, and you look in there, and you just kind of spin around and start pulling stuff out of there, and then you go in these little holes and that little hole. You got those little holes, and then you go in there, and you go in all these little holes. That's why it's important to have a bunch of little different tips, so that you can get to all the different style of little holes and stuff and get everything out of there. You know, just kind of wiggle it around, mush it up, and then get your little hose and rinse it off in there. And I mean, you got to see what I did with the nose stuff. It's basically the same exact concept, except you do it all the way through here, and it's the same exact thing, but in every other single spot. So it's very time consuming, and that's why we ended up snipping those heads. But it's the same exact concept all the way through. Basically, if it ain't bone, it doesn't need to be there. And I hope that kind of explains things. And as far as putting these on here, what I did was I went through and I drilled 2 little holes. Ignore this one. Originally I was going to drill 1 hole, but then I'm like, you know what, it'll be more secure if I have 2 points instead of 1. So scratch that one out. But we're using this point and this point. And the way I'm going to do this is I have more of a little clothes hanger, and I just cut a strip out, and I'm going to pick one of these 2 holes. For example, I'm picking this one right now. So I'm just going to run that through there, put it about halfway, and then I'm going to bend these over and straighten them out. Let's see if we can show you on this one. So I'm going to bend them. You can kind of see right there how I run them through those little holes, bend them, and then after I bend them, I feed them through the little holes that I drilled, and then I just snip the ends off and then fold them right over. And that's how I do my my little mounts there. I'll get this guy put on right here next to this other one, and I'll show you what it looks like once that's all done. All right, guys, so we skipped on the formula on these, simply because these are mine, and I'm not really too worried about them. The other ones were for my father-in-law, and I wanted those to look real nice, so I went ahead and put the formula on those. But on these, we're calling it good. As you can see, they're not terrible. They're pretty good. And what I'm gonna do here is basically I'm gonna take my super glue and just put a few little dabs of super glue here and there, and then set that sucker down, and we're just gonna glue it, and they're gonna look something kind of like that, and that's how our frame's gonna be. So another thing that I thought was pretty cool was I get to cut trees for work every now and then, and I got this this big old slab and medium-sized slab, and I got this little slab right here. It's a little walnut slab that I cut years ago. I know these suckers look rotted out, but I'm sure a little sanding will bring out the pretty out of them. And I think I'm gonna use this one for one of the like plaques or whatever it's called to mount the skull onto, and I'll show how that goes. So there we have it. This is our setup. We got 60 grit sandpaper on a little belt sander I got from Harbor Freight. I think I paid like 30 bucks or something like that. And we're just gonna sand down this whole thing until it doesn't look like it's rotting away. Eventually it'll look pretty. So we went through with the belt sander and got all the, you know, the big stuff, and that's what we're looking like now. And on the back, that's what we look like. This thing would have made an awesome little security board or whatever those stuff's called. But anyways, we're gonna go through with the orbital sander and give it a, you know, that final pass, getting everything look nice and pretty. That belt sander over there was just to, you know, just to get things started, and this will do the final touches. And we'll go through and sand it all down. All right, so we went ahead and hit it with the orbital sander. And so the key with sanding is you basically sand, and then once you're tired, you take a break and then keep sanding. And you just keep on sanding until you're either absolutely fed up or it's just baby wet smooth. I mean, get it real nice and smooth. That's what everything looks like there. It's really hard to decide what side I want to be the, you know, the side that's going to face, because I like right here a little bit of the bark, that cool design it has. And I don't know, I'm obsessed with this. But then again, right here you can really appreciate the beauty of the walnut. So I don't know, but I think this side's winning. But so for the sealer, we're going to do the boiled linseed oil, and you can put lacquer, polyurethane, shellac, and lacquer, whatever. There's so many options. This is just the one I'm going with, but you can put on whatever you want. Or put nothing at all. It doesn't matter. You know, it's your project. Do whatever you want. But yep, that's basically all there is to it. Just sand away, get it as smooth as you want it, and then put some sort of coat of whatever you want to put on it. Or you don't have to if you don't want to, but by putting a coat on it of something. You can even do the like clear coat, the spray paint clear coat stuff. I'll do that from time to time on things. Yeah, so really the beauty of it all is it makes the wood grain and everything really pop. And that's what gives it that shine. I'm a big fan of that, so especially with the walnut. I love walnut. But yeah, there we go, guys, and I'm basically just gonna get this smeared all on both sides, and we'll pick up there.